Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have another laptop video for everyone to enjoy. Back in the day, during the race of technology, there was always this race to have a bigger, faster, more performing laptop available for use, deeming them desktop replacement machines, mobile workstations. You know, you've heard all these terms. And as a result of doing that, these machines got heavier, bulkier, much more hard to actually be mobile, which was the whole purpose of what we were trying to accomplish by packing in all this power into a portable form factor. That said, today, we're not going to be talking about the Dell Precision machine we have on the bench. We're going to be talking about the ThinkPad X201 Subcompact laptop. So let's get right to it. Okay, and we're back, and I just love this machine. This machine comes in at just over 3 pounds, and the size of it is absolutely awesome. I mean, we're talking a screen size of 12.1-inch screen, and I think that's just absolutely amazing. Now, did Lenovo put power into this smaller form factor? You know, the subcompact, the mini, the ultra portable, the super portable. These are all terms they were calling these machines back in the day. So let's go over this X201 specifically. So on the top, we have Lenovo's typical rubberized type coating on the machine, and this particular model is in really good shape, so it is all intact. We have the ThinkPad logo here as well, as long as on the front as well. We have the latch right here that opens up the screen. We also have some additional areas here for ventilation and for sound, etc., as well as looks like an SD card reader here on the front. Rotating to the side here, we have more ports. You know how much we love ports on this channel. We have a USB 2 port. We have our headphone, our audio for microphone. We have a modem. Yes, there's a 56K modem installed in this machine. We have a removable hard drive, accessible hard drive area here for potential upgrades. We have a Kensington lock slot. On the back is just sporting our beautiful, even on the smaller model, the beautiful hinges that Lenovo has been known for. Very, very sturdy construction. Now, these models came in the 4, 6, and 9 cell variants. So the 4 cell would sit completely flush with the base of the machine. This is a 6 cell, slightly more protruded. And then a 9 cell would even be larger, but I believe that would give you more of a lift on the back. And they would use it for ergonomics is how they styled it. And on this side, we have our power jack. We have our external ventilation for our CPU. We have another USB port, SVGA out port, our gigabit Ethernet port, another USB port, a Wi-Fi on-off switch, which is becoming more and more rare to have on systems, and then, of course, our PCM-CIA express card slot here as well. So it's great to have all of these ports on this machine. Now, flipping it around, Lenovo, I just love how they build their machines to be able to have user-accessible type areas. And this is user-accessible memory slot here, and then it gives us all the design to be able to go and, you know, be able to remove the keyboard, for example. And they have little pictures here along the way. Here we also have a docking port. So it was great to see that even in their smaller class business units that they still have the docking port for a docking station. And this model indicates it has the Core i5 2.4 gigahertz CPU, which I believe is the M520 CPU. We also have the 4 gigabytes of memory, which they claim that's the max memory in this machine. And then we have 320 gigabyte of regular 7200 RPM hard disk drive. You know, 7200 RPM with 4 gigabytes of memory and an i5 running 2.4 gigahertz back then running Windows 7 and Professional, I believe, is what's on this, would have been absolutely amazing at the time in such a portable form factor and being so light. And again, with my hands covering up the whole machine, I mean, yeah, I might have big hands, but it covers the machine. And it just shows you the, the scale of what this unit is. Now, actually open the unit itself sports a beautiful layout for the Lenovo series. It kept the ThinkPad design, which is just absolutely beautiful in this machine. So as I mentioned before, we have a 12.1-inch WXGA screen with our good old keyboard illumination light up top here. Now, this particular model does not have the any webcam built in, but did have the the Ultra Connect feature of the Lenovo was sporting, and that was just enhanced range for Wi-Fi. So you'd have the antenna wrapped around the screen, and then we have a whole bunch of indicators here for different functions of the system. We have our branding here, Lenovo X201. We have the good old famous ThinkVantage button here, which will bring you into customary menus as well. We have, I really like this, that we do have the hard buttons for our volume, mute, up and down. Typical, awesome keyboard. Even though it's smaller, it is just a treat to type on. And the feedback of it while typing is just really, really, really nice. And then, of course, we have our track point. It wouldn't be a Lenovo machine without that good old red knob there in the middle. And then, so we have our mouse buttons here, but we also get the bonus, even with the form factor size, we also have the nice little trackpad here as well with the left and right mouse button clicks. Now, one thing I did notice occasionally when using this machine is, occasionally I would tap down here on the touchpad with my thumb or what have you, just given the real estate. And I mean, that's easily be able to turn off with a hotkey up top here or in the setup. So you can do different things to be able to configure that. And again, sporting security, we also have the fingerprint reader here, which you can also activate the machine by swiping your finger on this. It would actually tell the machine to go ahead and boot up. Really awesome to have as a feature. And again, for the durabilities of features that ThinkPads are just so well known for is we have the shock mounted hard drive. So the hard drive is able to take some abuse. Not a whole lot, but again, the fact that it has the shock absorber on that is really awesome. We have active protection system for the hard drive, so that would be software based. As soon as it started to sense any sort of movement, and then the spill resistant keyboards, of course, on the bottom you'd have spill something on that, and they say resistant for a reason, but they do have drain holes in here as well on the bottom to help save. You see a little icon there that shows a little image there of a little teardrop almost, but that would be for the keyboard drainage system. So that's really good. And I have actually had systems come to me that have had full cups of coffee in here and it just survives because it just deflects everything away from the critical components of the machine. Awesome feature. Okay, so we're going to flip this on just to kind of see what's in the setup program, and then we're going to talk about what we're going to do with this particular machine today. I want to see if we're able to do something a little bit more than what it's telling us it can do. Okay, we're all plugged in here. Let's hit the power button, and we're going to hit the ThinkVantage button right away. That allows us to get into the options, just to interrupt normal startup, typical ThinkPad fashion. So escape to resume, F1 to enter the BIOS setup utility. So we're going to do that. And then, of course, you can hit F12 if you want to choose a different device here as well. Okay, so under config, we'll hit that. We can go in here and configure all of our different hardware configurations here. So we have network, just awesome all the features that we have to be able to use in this machine. We have PCI, so you can assign your resources into your PCI. We have USB, so we want USB BIOS support, yes. Always on USB, yes, and it's automatic. And I love how it gives you kind of like a description on the right here. So if you're lost in the setup, that you're able to go in here and be able to know exactly what you're clicking on as you go through here. So I had mentioned earlier that we can go ahead and turn off our track point or touchpad here as well. So it's nice that they give you that option so you're not having to fumble with any sort of issues. Then under power, all the different typical power stuff, AC plugged in, AC unplugged, what you want your speed set up at. And it says CD-ROM speed here is normal. But if you notice, there was no CD-ROM built into this or no optical device built into this actual system. Again, being the form factor, you just get an external drive or you utilize one of the three USB ports on the machine if required. We have our date and time, and the date and time is correct at this moment, which is wonderful. And it's great to see that the CMOS battery in this is still functioning. Under security, we'd have your typical security. So you'd have your security for your password. That would be your CMOS or your BIOS password. You also have fingerprint reader, your security chip that's on board, your BIOS update option, what you can do, memory protection, protection and all that and anti-theft, which is great. And under startup, we have our boot sequence we can go ahead and actually select. We're not doing any of that right now. We're happy with what we have. But under the actual system itself, it shows what we have currently in the system. So we do have a Intel Core i5 CPU M520. CPU running at 2.4 gigahertz with 4 gigabytes of memory. Definitely a well-rounded machine for what it is. I mean, it's pretty snappy just using it as is. But I find that, the operating system on board is a bit sluggish. Maybe it's just because I have different expectations today. I'm wanting to know today if we're going to be able to upgrade. I have a 256 gig solid state drive here. I think this alone is going to make a huge difference in terms of being able to use this machine, specifically in like today's environments, whether it's browsing the web or doing different things. But on top of that, it states that it can only accept 4 gigabytes of memory. I know Lenovo is specific and picky about the memory, specifically in their machines, whether it's low voltage memory or different types of memory that they would want you to use. So I have 2 sticks of 4 gigabytes of PC3, so DDR3, 10600 SRAM here. And specifically the SRAM module is what is required for this machine to function. It says it supports 4 gig. It has 2 user accessible slots underneath the keyboard here, which we're going to flip around, or underneath on the back of the machine, which we're going to flip around and access here in a moment. So special call out to Aaron. Again, I mentioned his name a few times on the channel. Thanks again for assisting the retro recall on this one, because I had 1 stick, but not 2. So I wasn't able to experiment properly like I wanted to. So thank you very much for loaning the memory to the channel today to make this possible. I've done enough of the preamble on the setup, and I think at the end of the day, let's install an operating system on this. I'm talking about if we're going to upgrade the solid state and we're going to get the memory, assuming that we can get that working, I think we should install Windows 10 on this machine and see if we can get this up and running, fully functional, and on the internet. I think that would be awesome. Let's get right to it. Let's get this all turned off, unplugged, flipped around, and start performing surgery on this laptop. Okay, so here we are again. This small little machine we have in front of us. We're going to do some work to. So first thing we're going to do is remove the door to the memory slots themselves. Now it says this has 4 gigs of memory. I imagine, yeah. So it has 2 sticks of DDR3 memory in here. And just to confirm, based on what I read online, yeah, sure enough, it's DDR3 10600S RAM. So this gives us the best chance. Yes, you can go with slower memory or faster memory and hope that it would go down, what have you. But when I'm pushing a model past what the specs say, I want to make sure I'm going to keep within that same type of family. That's just my approach. People may have different approaches as well. So I'm going to remove both sticks of memory. And now we're going to pop in one of the 4 gigabyte sticks. I'm going to pop that in nicely. So I just love how user accessible this is. I'm not taking the keyboard apart. I'm not having to take the back panel apart or the front bezel or anything under the keyboard. I don't do any of that. It just literally accessible from the back. And I just love that Lenovo does that. I think it's just absolutely perfect. Okay, let's pop this other stick of RAM in there. There we are. And then so now we have 2 sticks of memory in here. Now, before I close this up, I want to do is I'm going to turn it over and plug it back in. And I'm plugging it back in every time because the battery health is not great on this machine. So I'm just making sure that we don't have any issues by it turning off there. So we have our machine here. Let's turn it on and see if we can get into the setup again. Nope. It's not. It's giving me beeps here. Okay, so it's not happy with the RAM. All right, see, this is why we test that. Okay, I'll hold the power button down, turn it off, we'll go back around, and we're gonna remove 1 stick of memory. Here we are. And we're gonna pop in another 4 gig stick that I have here of PC3 10600 SRAM as well, and just see if that is going to allow us to work. So I don't know if there might be an issue with the actual memory, or this really is not going to be happy with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Turn it on and see if we are able to move forward. And we have nothing. All right, so it's not liking 8 gigabytes of memory. So I'm going to turn that off again, unplug it, and we'll do the same thing until we find a configuration that works. Okay, so I tried various configuration of modules here. So again, I have the two modules that Aaron had given me, and for whatever reason, no matter what configuration or adding contact cleaner or what have you would work to get 8 gigabytes of memory working. So I found one, I had one 4 gig stick, which I put in here, but then I went ahead and mirrored it with one of the 2 gigabyte modules we had removed from the machine and bumped it up to 6 gigs of memory now. So we have our Intel Core i5 CPU M520 at 2.4 gigahertz with 6 gigabytes of memory. That is definitely a path in the right direction. Now, my argument would be because we're passing the 4 gigabyte kind of threshold for this machine, at least according to spec, that I would say, specifically if I was able to put in one of my 2 gig sticks, that one of the 8 gigabyte sticks that Aaron had passed along may not be functioning or may have an issue with the system. Because I tried these individually and they weren't functioning correctly. And according to the beep code I looked up online, 1 beep, 3 short beeps, another 3 short beeps, and 1 beep. That implies that it's a bad RAM chip. I'm going to take my blessings on 6 gig and move on with the next step. So as I had mentioned, what I want to do is install this 256 gig solid state drive. It's just a generic drive. I'm going to take out the other drive and pop this in and make sure that it recognizes essentially the drive. Ultimately, we're going to see if, we can install Windows 10 on this machine. Okay, and we're back and all set up with the camera kind of angled so everyone can see. We'll turn the power on and we're going to jump into the ThinkPad. Choose a specific startup device, which should be the USB drive. Here we go, F12. It found it right away. We'll choose that. Okay, so here we are a couple hours later. I'll tell you what happened. So you saw in the previous scene that it came up with an error indicating my drive, my solid state drive, was having some issues or wasn't able to write to it or what have you. I saw a similar message when I was trying to prepare the drive. I should have took a hint then, but I was stubborn. And well, that said, this drive, unfortunately, is just not working. So I took it into an adapter. I have a USB adapter to one of my other machines and did a complete scan on it. And it definitely has lots of sectors in it that unfortunately, the solid state integrity is not working right. And I don't have another one handy at the time. Otherwise, I would have definitely done that. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is me utilizing the 7200 RPM drive. A lot to be said about spinning rust. Here we have a solid state memory, which is toast. And now I'm using the spinning rust that would have came with this system originally. And again, another reason, I love what I use on this channel. I use all real hard disks, but I was really looking forward in using this as the exception because I think that this machine would drastically benefit from the access speeds that a solid state drive offers versus using a platter drive. So I installed Windows 10 here. I had an image of Windows 10, so I was able to utilize it and just to save some time. So I put it on the system here, and it seems to be working pretty well for what we needed to do. But I did find the access times are quite slow in comparison to what a solid state probably would have been. I mean, looking at the precision I had on here earlier, yes, it's not apples to oranges when you talk about the consideration of the machine. The actual machine itself, is meant for performance. So that machine with solid state drive, memory, and everything, and it just flies by no problem. And that's a result of having a solid state drive in the machine, even though it's aged. So I think if I had done that with this computer, of course, it would be running a lot faster. All that said, I'm still in the game. We have Windows 10 running on this machine, no problem. So we have a Core i5, 2.4 gigahertz running with 6 gigs of RAM with that 320 gigabyte hard drive that's installed on here. So I'm happy about that we actually have that on at this point. I'm just going to bring up the task manager just to show everybody the performance where we're sitting right now. So if you look at the performance on this machine, we're showing the 2% utilization of the CPU. Memory is running nicely. You know, that extra 2 gigs of RAM makes a lot of difference. Again, I'm still convinced we can get the 8 gigs installed, so I'm going to be doing that in a future video. And for the hard disk, this is where it really needs some assistance. You know, we have the drive installed. That's the platter drive that we have in there. You know, when you go to execute, you know, any sort of request, you'll see, for example, I'm going to load up a web browser here. So we'll load up Edge, and it just flattens out the hard disk. Like it's 100% reading the disk and writing to it. I think the access speeds would definitely be a lot more beneficial, of course, on the solid state. So definitely want to do that on the system, you know, but it's a good comparison to see that we have an older computer running Windows 10 on the internet, no problem. I think the extra memory helped. You know, the hard disk access rates, even though they are running max, they drop down pretty quickly when they need to, and they, you know, it's doing what it can to free up the resources. But I think, again, getting a solid state installed would make a world of difference. And here we are. We have the Lenovo X201 Subcompact Ultra Portable, Super Portable Mini Laptop, 14 years old, retro hardware in retrospect, in 2023, running Windows 10 Pro, no problem, on the internet, fully functional. Yes, it's a little sluggish a little bit here and there when loading, but once it's loaded, it's working just fine. And you can see how snappy the websites were. A little more memory upgrade, sure. I still convinced we can get this upgraded to 8 gigs of RAM. It took 6, 2 more should work fine once I find a stick of memory. And the same thing with this. I mean, a solid state drive, it would be very beneficial from, you know, in terms of performance for read-write processes. I think it would be so beneficial for this computer to have that versus the platter drive, given the age of the system, breathes new life into this. And this is what this channel is all about. I mean, think about it. We're taking old hardware that this system normally would have been tossed. It would not have been used anymore. But here we are. We have the X201 subcompact computer in full functioning, no problem, on the web in 2023. I think this is absolutely great, and I'm definitely going to put this system to use. It is so thin and light, being around 3 pounds. There's something about it, nostalgia of it, as well as being able to mash away on the Lenovo keyboard, just your true fashion ThinkPad in a much smaller form factor. That said, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It's right there. It really helps the channel out, helps the channel grow. Please hit the notification button, change it to all. You'll be notified of new content, such as these great videos right here. And again, if you haven't seen the videos, there's lots of videos and playlists set up. So please go ahead and explore the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Always love the interaction on the channel. I reply to absolutely every one of my comments, and I love doing so. Always making new content such as this. Thank you absolutely to everyone for all of your support and helping this channel grow. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.